Critical Role Recap Season 2, Episode 47. So last year, before the break, we left off with the Mighty Nein having just found this second temple of Uk'otoa, or of the binding of Uk'otoa, and they cast water breathing on the whole crew, jumped down, sunk to the bottom of the ocean, found a leaning tower with kelp growing up through it, and started to make their way towards it when they noticed a couple of giant crustacean monsters. And that's where we ended, and that's immediately where we pick up. So we start off the episode immediately with combat. They end up fighting like 2 or 3 giant crab lobster people dudes that are really strong and have pincer attacks and are like grabbing onto their face and holding them down and pinning them, as well as a couple of like predator kind of fish dudes. The predator fish guys go down pretty quickly. The crab dudes, however, seem to be pretty tanky, and it does take them a bit of time to chunk through all of their health. However, the Mighty Nein does get out of the combat fairly unscathed. They actually go ahead and take 10 minutes to have a short rest and heal up. So then they go inside of the tower that's leaning down here at the bottom of the ocean, and they find kelp growing up through the center of it. So Knot goes ahead and climbs down through the kelp and finds the next chamber. So they all come down after her, and that's where Ford finds where he needs to set his eye stone cloven gem thing in order to hopefully gain power to control water, as Ivanica had, but not completely unleash Uk'otoa. So Ford tells everyone to go ahead and swim up. That way he doesn't have to worry about them, since he runs at full speed underwater thanks to his mariner's armor, and he doesn't want them to get trapped down there in case something bad does happen. But he puts in his stone, gets a brief vision where it seems like Uk'otoa, once again, reward, power, all that sort of stuff, release me kind of thing, and also shows him a vision of where the third temple will be, where Ford could, if he wanted to, which he doesn't seem to want to, place the final stone there and possibly unlock this serpent god thing, Uk'otoa, and unleash it upon the world, but also gain power for himself in some way. Ford definitely doesn't want to do that. At least that's what he says to everyone. He seems pretty sure of the fact that that's not what he wants to do. But he did want to definitely get this power, which he did after putting in his stone. You know, everything started to rumble and shake, but they all made it back up, thanks to Jester using control water to push them out of the way once like a suction started to cause a spout and whirlpool to form. So they got back up on their ship. Ford demonstrated his power briefly by pulling up a tendril of water and then just kind of letting it sit there. And then they started to decide, okay, well, let's head out, as another ship rounded a corner on one of the islands that they had been anchored off of and started to make its way towards them. Ford decided to immediately just run away because it seemed like they were opening up their gun ports and were ready to do battle. So as they took off, they rounded around the island, and then the ship continued to gain on them because Ford rolled a pretty bad survival check and ran into some rocks, and it seemed like the enemy ship was a little bit faster than them anyway. However, Molly used his own control water spell, which had a 30% chance of capsizing the enemy ship, and it did. He rolled percentile dice and capsized the enemy ship. So all of the work that Matt had put in for all of this ship combat, he had a whole rule set and sheets handed out to show people what they can do during ship combat, was completely put to waste by one spell from Caduceus, which completely capsized their enemies. They went ahead and talked to the survivors of the shipwreck for a bit and basically learned that, yeah, they were just pirates and they were just coming to take whatever stuff they could get. It was no like specific, it had nothing to do with Uk'otoa. It didn't have to do with the planking. It was just kind of general scavenging crew of pirates, and they got fucked over by control water. So the Mighty Nein said, okay, whatever, peace out, and decided to make their way to the Menagerie Coast to hook up with Jester's mom briefly, and then possibly go on to near where Knot came from so that Knot could check on one of her buddies. Ford's basically like, okay guys, thank you for all your help. I have the control over water. I have the third stone, so we know no one else can go open up the temple, and I'm fine with leaving things as they are for now and seeing where it takes us kind of thing. He doesn't want to unleash the beast, is what he's telling them. And so he's happy to just let someone else kind of take the helm of the group and decide what they're going to do next. On their way to the Menagerie Coast, Caleb identifies some of the items that they picked up. He gets a lucky stone that he keeps and doesn't really tell anyone what it does. Also, they seem to get some sort of strength potion, and they get a stone that can grow a 60-foot tree out of it once, apparently, as well as some armor that is given to Knot that at will Knot can change the appearance of the armor to look like any type of clothing, it seems, or armor. So that's pretty interesting. There doesn't seem to be any limitation on the uses of that. And they also found some sort of sphere that they can set as to give off light, and it'll float. And then they can use a control word to make it put off extremely bright light, like daylight. So that should come in handy as well. So a few cool items. And they also picked up a bunch of gold in this tower that they scavenge up, platinum, gold, silver. So they got some more money. And then on their trip also, Jester decided that they should forge some new documents for this new ship, since the ship itself didn't have any documents on it. And while forging it, she needed to put a person's name as the owner, and Ford decided to give Orly, their turtle humanoid navigator, the ownership of the ship. And Orly said, well, I'll take it in name, but we all know that you're the captain and that it's really your ship. And basically, Orly, conveniently, like an NPC crew, said that he was going to take over the ship and, have it go about doing legal, I assume, sort of customs, and be taking in money and giving jobs to the crew and stocking some away for Ford's cut, essentially. Anytime he wanted to come back, it was still his ship. He could use it whenever he wanted. And he would also have some money waiting around for him from the jobs that they did on their own while he was gone. And then the end of the episode was basically them just pulling up to the coast. And that's where we left off for next week. So we'll see them making their way into the city and meeting up with Jester's mom, and then continuing on their way over to the area where Knot comes from to check in on a halfling friend of hers that she's concerned about. But yeah, that was pretty much it. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.